Hi, I'm Maisie Colin, and I'm delighted to bring you an inspiring woman that I'm thrilled for you to get to know better. Her name is Cigdem Knebel, and she's an author, social entrepreneur, and the founder of Simple Words Books. Simple Words Books. So, Simple Words. This comes from books, I believe, that are written for a specific audience that needs simple words, and I'm delighted to introduce you to her because these books are about dyslexia. They're not about dyslexia, they're for kids that have dyslexia. So that's very different. I was Googling to prepare for this discussion today, and I was trying to search for books for kids with dyslexia. And as it turned out, I couldn't come up with any except for Cigdem's books, because most of the books out there are written about dyslexia or they're written about kids who have dyslexia. But there aren't any books besides Cigdem's that are written for kids to have in their hands that have dyslexia. So Cigdem, it's a delight to be with you today. And I wanted to ask you, since there aren't so many books out about this topic for kids to read on, kids who have dyslexia, how did you come up with this idea?
Well, thank you so much, first of all, Maisie, for hosting me. It's an honor to be here with you. Well, I'm a mom, and I have a dyslexic son. And when he was diagnosed with dyslexia at age 6, we started the Wilson training. And as he started learning to read, he was really eager to read chapter books like his friends did. So when we realized that it was going to take a very long time for him to read, and there was nothing out there that I could find, I said, I'm going to write something for him so he could get these quick wins early on and really feel like all the hard work he's putting into all the tutoring is paying off, and that he would feel good about himself. And that's kind of really how everything started. And I started sharing the books with people around me on my dyslexia circle. And it started as a joke saying, oh, you need to publish these books. And here we are now. I'm an author, and I'm publishing more and more books every year.
Wow. Well, as I say, you're very inspiring, and that's quite impressive. I am wondering, I know I've heard of Wilson language training, which you just mentioned, and I was able to hear from someone who is a tutor for Wilson's language training, and they mentioned that they use a lot of passages, but they don't have full books about that kids can have in their hands and read. So can you tell me a little more about what your intention was about building that confidence with readers? And was it really just your personal story that your son was like, I want to read a book? Did you look for books first before you began to be the author of books? Tell me a little bit more.
For sure. I went on Amazon, which is the biggest bookseller in the world. I went to schools. I went to libraries. I went to actually schools who are teaching children with dyslexia, thinking that if anybody knew if these books were out there, they would be the ones. And they said there really isn't anything out. I did find, like you said, books about dyslexia. Still, I had to read them for my child, or we got the audiobooks so that he could listen to them. Mm-hmm. But I wanted something a bit more than that. I didn't want everything that he read to be about dyslexia. That was really good to hear the stories of kids who are struggling, so he could understand that he's not the only one out there.
Yes.
But still, I wanted him to just enjoy reading a book just like any other child was. And when you look at the shelves, they're filled with millions of books for kids in the elementary school, and knowing that all he could read was these, as he called, baby books that had cat sat on a mat, the frog is on a log, he was so past that intellectually. And knowing that he couldn't read the other books that he would enjoy, he started saying, I don't like to read, I don't like books, which we knew wasn't true because he loved to be read to, or he loved audiobooks. Mm-hmm. And I felt that this was a turning point where we could have lost that opportunity to enforce that reading is fun. And I didn't want him to feel like all he read was a struggle, or all his experience with books was just pain and crying and fighting and negotiation. So I said I have to create something when I couldn't find it that he would just say, okay, let me try, I can do this, and I can do this on my own, and feel like he was in control of this.
Wow, Cigdem, I can imagine a lot of people listening to this will really understand your personal story, and having your child feel that he doesn't like reading if it's a struggle and doesn't come naturally, and then seeing him embrace reading and being able to read must be so powerful. And I can imagine a lot of families, it sounds to me like, just from doing some brief research, that 1 in 5 kids struggles with reading and with dyslexia. So this is really going to help a lot of children. Let's talk specifically about the books that you've written. I know one of them is Sam is Stuck, because I bought that book from you. So can you tell me about how the book is different? I know you talk about word counts, and there's several pieces of the book that are not just the story. So I wanted to hear about why you wrote this book fiction, how the elements of the book are comprised, and what word counts you've used, things like that.
Sure. So I started with a book. The first book was Sam is Stuck, and we have just over 4,000 words in it. So it's a good amount of words where it's not overwhelming for a child, but it's also a good size where they can hold the book in their hand. And it's a chapter book. There are 6 chapters in it, and feel like it's a big kid's book. The vocabulary I chose is very selective. It's a very small pool of words that I use. I looked at the words that are most frequently used in the English language, that are phonetically decodable, and also some of the frequently used sight words which means that they don't follow any rules in the English language, but they have to be memorized by sight. And among these, I kind of picked the ones that are easier to read and that they would learn early on in their language training, and created the books. And every book has a word list in the back of it, along with a certification of achievement, because I know that my son felt that this was a big achievement for him. And also I put a little tag on in the front where it says it's a gift tag, because I want this to be really a gift to someone. It's not that they're forced to read it. This is not the school homework. This is really learning how to love reading and understanding that there could be joy in reading and exploring imagination and different worlds that is not in their small circle today. And again, I didn't use any characters that are dyslexic, because I wanted them to not define reading again with dyslexia. This is about a family going on a trip, and there's a fish that talks and comes and asks for help because his friend is stuck in the rocks, and the 2 kids dive in. They have some challenges, but they don't give up, and they get the fish free, and everybody's happy. It's a happy ending.
You're telling the end. You're telling the end.
And then the bomb comes now.
Oh my gosh. So Cigdem, you shared a lot with that. One of the things that you mentioned is that you use 4,000 words, and that you have to use very specific words that are easily decodable for the reader. So it sounds very complicated, honestly, to consider a select group of words from the English language and then add in the side words that you'll need, that the kids need to memorize. So the process itself of writing sounds very complex. I did want to mention that I detect an accent that you have, and it sounds to me like English might not be your first language. So I wanted to ask you, is English a primary language for you? And how challenging was this to work with English? Isn't English one of the most difficult languages?
Well, I am from Turkey, so I speak Turkish, English, and Norwegian on a daily basis. I learned English when I was about 11 years old, when I started my middle school at 6th grade. And it's interesting that, I feel like I look at the English language differently than a native speaker, which I think helps me write these books. I see words and the sounds differently, because I speak I speak these 3 languages, and I studied German for 2 years, and I was really fluent at it, but with no practice, not much is left. And just for fun, I also studied Spanish and Japanese. As opportunities came, I said, oh, why not? I love languages. Let me just sit in these classes and see what all these languages are all about. So I think I understand, I have a really good understanding of how phonics work. So my native language, Turkish, is extremely phonetic. If you look at our language, we have 29 letters, very similar to the English alphabet, but they're very phonetic, meaning every letter has one sound. So we have 28 sounds, and the 29th letter we have makes the vowel in front longer. So you learn those 29 sounds, and you can actually read. You don't have to understand what you're reading, but you can phonetically read the language if you are giving a text. Whereas if you look at English, I would say that's probably one of the most difficult languages I came across. So you have 26 letters in the English alphabet, that make up these sounds or phonemes, which even experts can't agree on how many there are. It's like 39 to 45, most agree on 44. And these 44 phonemes can be written in 150 different ways. So if you can imagine that a child who's struggling with phonemic awareness could actually be lost when you throw all this to them all at once. And that's why when I look at the language, I try to phonetically figure out the words and say, okay, these are the easy words they can use, and some others are not. And sometimes, like, we look at, like, when I first started writing, I thought like put was easy, gel was easy, but they actually are not. If you look at put, phonetically you would say put, or gel, it would be gal, or like get. So why is get G-E-T? Well, gel, G-E-L is gel. So why is the G sound is G or G? So I had to really like look into all these very details. Just because a word is closed vowel and they're short, it doesn't make them phonetically easy. So it was a really long process to really look at the language in a different way. But I feel like I was able to write these not because it was despite of my not despite that I was a foreigner, but because I was a foreigner, because I had a very different perspective on phonics and the English words. If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. I think, as we look at the school systems in our country, in the United States, I think we take a lot for granted because, as you say, English is one of the most difficult languages. And now there are more and more kids that English is not their primary language going to school. So I can imagine for a lot of teachers watching today, this is really going to be a wonderful resource because it's not only the dyslexic kids, but perhaps kids with English as a second language that will be able to decode these words in a much easier way. So I can imagine your audience, even though 20% of our kids, 1/5, 1 out of 5 has a learning challenge, it sounds to me like your books might even reach a larger audience with kids with English as a second language. So you mentioned there are different sections of the book, and I did want to make sure that your listeners today really understand that you have word counts, and every single word that's in your book is in the back of the book, right? So tell me more about that. Is that something that really aids a dyslexic reader, or is that something that a teacher would be using as a tool, or a parent would be using as a tool?
So there are a couple of ways you can use that. I think the initial use should be the purchaser of the book, the teacher or the parent, should look at that word list and say, is this the right level for my child?
Oh, okay.
If you look at in other books, we have a book called, our 2 books called 6 Days at Camp, one for boys, one for girls, and they're over 8,000 words. And again, the word list is in the back, or on our website. If you go to simplewordsbooks.com, you can find the words list for every book on our website. And you can just say, okay, this book is easy, or this book is too hard. Maybe it's time for my child to read, because you really want to give them a book that is just a little bit above their reading level,
yes,
but not too above where they will be struggling and again getting frustrated. There's so many books and so many things in their academic school life, day in, day out, that frustrates them. These books should be really for fun for them to enjoy.
Wonderful.
And then, of course, the other thing is you can really use these to see if they can read those books. So it could be a preparation tool where you can, maybe if there's some words that are difficult that you think that might not be able to read, you could practice those words without really just feeling like it's a class, and prepare them for those words while they're reading.
Wonderful. So you were mentioning the different levels of reading, and I haven't asked you yet, when you wrote your books, I understand your son was your original motivator to write books for him, which I completely can relate to. I remember so vividly when my son realized he doesn't know how to read, and I was reading to him at night, and he said, I need to learn how to read. So I can imagine that moment when you are reading with your child and you see them struggling. So I wanted to ask you the level of these books. I know these days we often talk about this is appropriate for an age, but it seems like these days we're much more sophisticated in determining reading level regardless of grade level or age. Is that something you found? Like what group of kids is this really targeted for? Who are you writing for?
Initially, I did write the books for elementary school kids, so anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade.
Okay.
And I do have, parents or teachers coming to me and saying, I have a 7th grader who's reading at, 2nd or 3rd grade level.
Yes.
And these books were very helpful, which does show that, when you're struggling with reading, it's not the age that really matters, it's the level that you are at. So I think these books, depending on which one you're looking, anywhere from, 1st grade to 4th, 5th grade would actually be appropriate initially, yeah.
Great.
Again, I think the word list is the key here. And you look at the words, if you feel like those are really simple, easy words, then maybe the next book level would be good. And you can see that they're all color coded, and in the back of the back cover, you can see our ribbons and what level they are attached to.
Great. So you mentioned your book is a gift, and your books are gifts, and you actually include a to from plate in the first page, which is so lovely because I know some of our most treasured gifts are often books. So where can we find your books?
So you can, they're all sold on Amazon. You can go to our website to find the links to the Amazon website, or you can, Google them and search for them on Amazon.com. And our website is simplewordsbooks.com. And maybe we can put the link in the bottom as well.
Great. Simplewordsbooks.com. So I know that you're doing this, you're passionately writing these books as fast as you can with a set of words that you can only use to try to help readers. What else are you trying to do to help parents with kids with dyslexia or teachers? I know that you mentioned you hosted a summit in October. So are there other things beyond writing that you're doing that you'd like to share?
For sure. I am really passionate about early diagnosis. I mean, early detection, I think, is the best gift that we can give to a child who has a learning difference, and put them on the right path early on before they start feeling like they can't read. Maybe they're not as good as their classmates, or even learning the wrong guessing reading behavior. So my goal with the summit was to bring all the things that I learned as a parent that worked for my child and share it with the world. And we interviewed several experts in the fields that some of them I follow, some of them I actually took lessons from, and just kind of share the experience on, this is what dyslexia is, this is how you diagnose it, and if you have it, these are the accommodations you can get, this is the support you can get, and if you're not getting support, this is the way you can go around and see, what you can do to help your child fight the system, if I may say.
Great. So lots of resources there. So I know that your summit was an event, but is it still available for people listening today? It
is. It's actually it's free. It's if you go to our website, the links are there. The videos are on YouTube. You can Google us there as well. And it is, you can listen to it whenever you want, as many times as you want, because that was something that I struggled with. Having a full-time job, then attending the kids and doing homework. My time to research dyslexia and how I could help my son was really after they went to bed until, I fell asleep. And it had to be something that was easily accessible. And I could just go back and listen to some of the things. I didn't want to travel to conferences and learn more about dyslexia. So I felt like that was missing when I was going through the journey. And I wanted to offer that. And I hope that I will have at least 2 summits a year. We hope that our next one will be in March 2018 and continue that, March and October summit every year. And we're getting great feedback. It seems like, many parents were actually looking for something in the same sense that I was looking for, something that they can access whenever they want, wherever they want, and free.
Yes, that's remarkable. It seems like you've created quite a community, and you're really helping parents and teachers all around the world with this challenge. We all are trying to raise healthy, engaged kids, and it's wonderful that you're building confidence in this group of readers and giving them something that's not a factual book that they have to read for school, something that they can actually enjoy and be passionate about for reading in their hands. It's wonderful. So how can our listeners get in touch with you to learn more? You mentioned your website, and it sounds like there are a lot of resources there. So how can we find out more?
So the best way is really to go to the website. There's a contact me page, and I will put my email in the links below as well. So feel free to email me any questions. We are always looking for feedback from teachers and parents on what they need. We don't have a set mind of this is the next book we're putting out and this is the strategy we're following. We will make sure that whatever we're creating is based on what's needed out there. So a lot of the ideas are coming from parents, and we're changing our strategy based on what's needed out there. And reach out to me, let me know if you like the books, and if you buy them and like them, I would love that if you could leave like a 5-star review on Amazon, because that really gets the word out there. And share with the world if you feel like this is something that is needed, and if you know any child could benefit from it. Share our website, share our social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook and Twitter. Share our posts, and hopefully we will help children get diagnosed early and get the help and support they need.
Well, it's, again, I'm bringing back this discussion to how inspiring you are, because you're reaching a whole group of our children, and we're going to prepare this group of learners to be, healthy, happy, well-adjusted contributors to our community in the future. So I know that sometimes kids that have learning challenges tend to be frustrated and might be acting out in numerous ways, and you see this through people's lives. And I just think it's amazing to be able to meet you and talk with you. I think, Cigdem, that you're doing an amazing job for so many parents and kids across our world. So I want to thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and I appreciate that you take the time to interview me too.